What we're going to do is, in this video, we're just going to unwrap and texture it. So let's go ahead and hold Shift and select all three of these options. So I'm Shift and left clicking on all three. And actually what I'd like to do is let's select the head and let's apply. Remember what I told you before, like none of these settings will stay unless we apply these. So let's go ahead and hit Control+A or click the apply button here. And I'm just going to go through and starting from the bottom here, Control-A, Control-A, and do the same thing for the body here. All right. Now I'm going to select all three of these. Now I dragged the marquee around by holding the left mouse button and selecting all of them, or holding Shift and selecting all three. Now you can right click, and inside of here you can add a new collection to bring them together. What I'm going to do is just simply merge all of them. So you can see here, there's under object here, there's a bunch of different settings for mirroring, all this good stuff, applying. We'll get into scale and all that stuff later. And let's see, there's options for adding meshes and all that good stuff. Let's see what else we got in here. But for now, we're inside the object mode. So I'm just going to hit Control and J. And notice what happened is it put all of those elements together into one object. And notice my pivot is off. So, or if you go to object here and it goes set origin, you can see there's geometry to origin. If you click that, it'll actually move your model to where that origin is. You can also, which is what we're looking for, is origin to geometry, and that'll place the origin in the center of our model here. We also, I'm going to press N here. We also want to make sure that all of these options here, where our scale is cleaned up, where this is all set to 100%. Right now it's set to some weird fraction. Same thing with our location. We want it to be centered to this world. So I'm going to hit Shift and A, or I'm sorry, Control and A rather, and I'm going to hit all transforms. And notice what happened. It zeroed out my location and it put 1 for my scale. It also set my pivot point to the center of the world. So that kind of cleans up our model a little bit here. All right, so let's go over to from layout to the UV editing tab here. And let's take a look at how we can unwrap this model. Now I want to make sure that this UV sync selection is on. And what that does is if I don't have any specific face selected, it will, with this on, it actually shows me the entire model. Now we're not going to get into how to unwrap properly in this video. This is more of a survey video to show you how to get a model, code it, bring it into Unity, all that good stuff, and move it around. Kind of making a little robot game as quick as possible. So what I'm going to do here is with this robot, I'm going to just kind of go over to face mode here. Notice I pressed there's 1 for vertex, 2 for edge, and 3 for face. I'm going to hit A to select all of these faces. Notice it got all of them. So first I pressed 3 to go to face mode, which allowed me to select the face, and then A like apple. And I'm going to go up to UV edit here, and I'm going to hit Smart UV project, and I'm okay with these settings. I'm going to hit OK. Now all that did is it packed it in there. Now in a more advanced video, I will cover how to unwrap the model, but for now, as I said, this is just a survey video. So now that we have our model unwrapped, which essentially takes your model and it creates a flat 2D representation of it so that it makes it easier to paint sort of an image. Let's go over to texture painting here. And you'll notice that our model right off the bat is missing some textures. And the way I know that is because, or missing a material, is because it's pink, right? So if I go to material here, material 1, and I'd like to start painting on this. So notice there's no texture on here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this. And actually, let's go ahead and, let's see. I don't want, let's see. Let's kind of bring this down a little bit this way. I'm going to actually, for a quick moment, hit tab and go to object mode and select this. I'm going to go down to materials here. And I want to see which material is actually applied. So let's actually delete material 001 by hitting the minus here. And so that allows us to have just this material on our object. The problem with multiple materials like that is sometimes it'll get confused during the texture painting process. So if you see that or you encounter that, go to material mode, delete one of the materials and just keep it. Now I'm going to name this robot underscore MTRL. And I'm going to hit tab. I'm going to go back to texture paint mode. And we're still in the material tab, so let's go up to paint here and let's go ahead and add a base color. Now I'm going to leave it a gray for my base color for now, and what that did is it flooded this area here with a flat gray color. Now if I click this little down arrow here, you'll see robot material underscore base color, which is the same material that's here in my material tab. Now I can draw on this and you'll see it updates here, but what I'd like to do to save time, I hit Control Z to exit that, is I'd like to turn on symmetry, which is down here, and I'm going to be painting across this x-axis. So let's go ahead and just do a quick black little monitor area behind that. So I'm going to bring this color all the way down and just sort of really quickly bring paint, something like this. You'll see it'll start to update here. You can also, by the way, remember I was telling you that the UVs are a 2D representation. You can actually go in here and just paint something like this. But notice that I don't have symmetry on in this view. So just doing something like this, I can also just go in here. And now the way I'm increasing the radius of my brush is either up here or to the my left and right brackets allows me to do that as well. All right, so something like that, and I'm going to move my color up to white. And I'm just going to paint maybe a little bit of a 2 dots here for the eyes, and then maybe something like this for the mouth. And maybe what I'll do is kind of do a little frame like that. Now notice, because we didn't unwrap this properly, the texture is upside down, or the UVs are upside down. This is the right way up. Let's paint a little logo on the shirt. Maybe this is a medical robot or something. So I'm going to go ahead and turn symmetry off and just grab the color red and just put a red, maybe purple cross there that represents it's a medical robot like that. And let's go ahead and save this. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see where I have image here. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to hit save. And in my documents folder for now, I'm just going to make a folder called robot. And in that robot folder, I'm going to just save robot material base color. Now, one last thing we can do is we can do a couple different maps. We can do a metallic map. Roughness is essentially the overall roughness of a object. So if you have wood, the rougher areas would have sort of essentially like a darker color so that they wouldn't take in as much light, whereas newer things sort of have more of a shiny look. Metallic has to do with the overall specularity. So if we go with black here, let's see what happens for our metallic map. And actually, now if this happens to you, go ahead and hit Z and go to Material Preview. And you'll see here, it's applying both materials at the same time. So what happens under metallic? So here's our metallic map. We remember we filled it with black. Notice if I go all the way to white and I start painting this monitor here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And actually, let's turn on symmetry. And actually, let's see, I think if we go to, because I don't have a light in here, let's see if rendered. I think rendered will show up black. And I'm going to hit Shift and A. Actually, let me go to object mode. I'll hit Shift and A. And let's go to light. And then we'll just add a sunlight. And I'm going to hit G just to move it up. And then R to rotate a little bit this way. All right, so let's go back to Material Preview with that light on. So what's happening here is, let's hit Tab and go back to texture mode. Oh, you know what? We don't have this character selected. There we go. As I paint this, notice that certain areas become more reflective than others. Actually, it's coming out red. There we go. Now, notice as we paint this white, where our monitor screen is, do this a little bit better. Certain areas appear flat and other areas appear specular. So let's see how this works in conjunction with the roughness map. So I'm going to make sure that my roughness here is actually completely black, and I'm going to hit OK so you can see that in action. Notice with it being completely black, my entire object looks almost brand new, right? It doesn't have any roughness. It looks like a mirror. So if I go in here and let's switch this to our roughness map, which is here. And let's say I flood this with white. Notice that disappears. So say I want the screen to have a little bit of a reflection where his face is. I can go down to a gray here, and then let's go back to our brush, and with a little bit of gray, start to paint in the face here. And now that area has a little bit of reflection. It reflects sort of the environment, and it appears a little bit shinier. So something like that. Let's see if I can make sure I grab all that stuff. Alright, so now what we can do is, let's see, we've got that going on. Notice as the light hits it, maybe if I go to rendered mode here, you kind of see that a little better as I rotate it. See how as the light moves, it kind of falls off or dies towards the sides. You can also probably select this light and just sort of show it to you that way too by rotating it. Something like this. See how the light kind of only really is affecting that screen? Alright, now I'm going to select the sun. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to hit Z, and I'm just going to go to Material Preview. Now, last step I want to do before we go into Unity is I want to save off each one of these maps. So we save here's our base color, and there is a hotkey. So if you go to Image, you can see Control Shift Alt S. So I'm going to hit Shift Alt S to save over that. Oops, let me undo that little spot there. I don't need that. So Shift Alt S, save over my base. Shift Alt S, and Robot Material Metallic. That looks good to me. And roughness. Now there is a option to add a height or normal map. We don't necessarily need that for this really quick video, but feel free to go into texture painting here and add the normal and bump and just sort of play with it. But I think that gives you a pretty good idea of how to paint textures in here. Ideally, I would normally use, until these tools get better, maybe something like Painter or Designer to create, so vegetation or procedural materials. So that's it for this video.